I'm Colleen, and here is my BUY September TBR. If you are new here, I'm Colleen Delaney. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for coming. I talk about books and writing, and with that, let's get into it. So I will not be buying any books in September other than Book of the Month because I have a lot of books that I need to read that I've gotten from the library, accumulated over the summer, and have advanced readers copies of. With that being said, instead of organizing this by genre, which I usually do in my TBR, I'm going to organize it by how I've gotten these books. The first thing we're going to talk about is Book of the Month. The Book of the Month picks aren't out yet. I'm filming this in the end of August, and they usually release them either on like the day before the month ends or the first day of the month. So I don't know what there's going to be, but two of you lovely, lovely watchers out there used my Book of the Month code on my Book of the Month video, which I'll post below. So I have 3 credits for this month, which I'm really excited about. So shout out to Pau and Bryn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think I'm only going to use 2 credits this month because I really want an extra credit for October because I really like the book picks they put out in October usually. So I'm planning to get 2 books in September and then 2 books in October, which will be a blast. All right, let's move into what I've already gotten from the library. The first book is Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. And this is actually the first pick of my book club. Now, this is a book club I've been in since 2016, I think. But we have taken a long hiatus starting kind of at the beginning of the pandemic. And we are starting up again in October. And this is the first pick. One of my friends picked it. It is a story of 4 women who, at the beginning of the story, are like teenagers who join Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is kind of like a branch of the government. And then the story jumps forward where they're not working together anymore, and there's like a civil war between different groups of witches. It sounds really fun. I'm looking forward to it. I like a story that follows a group of friends over a lot of years. So yeah, it'll be fun. In this book group, we mostly read fantasy. We'll very rarely read like historical fiction or romance or sci-fi, but fantasy is really where our comfort is. And then there's 2 more books I already got from the library, and they are volumes 6 and 7 of Saga by Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan. And I've been reading this series off and on for years. So I started a long time ago, stopped reading it because my kids were always going through my stuff, and there's some pretty graphic imagery in here of like heads exploding and stuff. I don't want to deal with the nightmares. But now they've gotten to an age where they kind of stay out of my business, and if I put a book in my bedside table, they don't look at it. So I'm back reading it. These are just really fun sci-fi with a romance through line about 2 warring groups and how that war is affecting basically the entire universe. And there's a family on the run, and yeah, they're really interesting, fun graphic novels. If you like reading graphic novels, definitely check out Saga. All right, let's move on to some books I just own and haven't read yet. And the first is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is going to be my Labor Day weekend read. I've already decided I wanted like a specific Labor Day weekend read. I'll start it on Friday. I will hopefully finish it by Monday. I don't know, it's pretty long, so maybe I won't. Oh, actually, it's not that long. Hopefully I will. But I've been wanting to read this book for a really long time. It's been recommended to me a ton. So I can't wait to meet Addie LaRue and find out what happens when someone finally remembers her after centuries of no one remembering her. Next, I have a contemporary romance, Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have heard a ton of good things about this book, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I did read the first couple of pages yesterday just to see if I was in the mood for it. I'm currently reading Small Angels by, I think it's Lori Owen. I can't remember her name particularly, but it's very creepy, and I kind of needed a break from the creep factor yesterday. So I read a couple pages of this, and it's just delightful. So I look forward to, in September, diving in and finishing it. It's about a young woman, Chloe Brown, who has a near-death experience right at the beginning of the book and then decides to sort of change her life. And she makes a list of all the things she wants to get done in her life, and she's going to meet someone who's going to help her with that list. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. Last month, I did get Small Angels from Book of the Month, but I also got Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid as an add-on. I've been wanting to like dip my toes into Taylor Jenkins Reid's because everybody loves her so much, but I felt kind of behind because I have never read any of her backlist. And then I asked someone who I follow on Twitter which book they'd recommend to read first. And she said this one. So I got this one as an add-on. And if I love it, maybe I'll get The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo next and continually keep getting her books because I know she's just supposed to be phenomenal. I think this is really cool that it's written in interview format. I don't think I've ever read a book like that before. I was like trying to remember, and I don't think I have. So that will be a super fun September read. Also, the colors are very September. I have no idea if this book has fall feels, but the aesthetic of the book is very fall feels to me. Okay, so let's talk about all the arcs I have. I definitely have too many arcs right now, and it's a problem that I have because I finished a couple days ago an arc I was reading, so I went to review it on NetGalley, and then I just can't help perusing NetGalley to see what else they've released recently. And so I ended up getting a couple more arcs because I just can't stop. I mean, it is what it is. I know who I am. So the one I'm most excited to read is I did get approved for the arc of The Duke Gets Even by Joanna Shupe. And if you've watched my channel, you know how much I love Joanna Shupe. So The Duke Gets Even is book 4 in the Fifth Avenue Rebels series, which I've been absolutely adoring. The first one is The Heiress Hunt. The second one is The Lady Gets Lucky. The third one is The Bride Goes Rogue. And this one is The Duke Gets Even. It's the last book. It's a quartet. I can't wait. The first book was great. The second and third book were like some of the best romance novels I've ever read. They were absolutely fantastic, so I have very high hopes for this. So in this book, we are finally going to get Nellie's story. And Nellie has been a friend to all of the women throughout these stories, and she's kind of like the friend that can get you into trouble. She's the one that can take you to a masked sex club, basically, which happened in the last book. She's the one that recommend you hire someone to give you carnal lessons, which happened in the second book. So she's the fun friend. And the Duke, who we've also been following because he was engaged to the heroine in the first book, Maddie, has kind of like a secret, like a dark secret. And knowing Joanna Shupe, this dark secret's going to be something that's going to be extremely fun to read about. Or maybe not. Or it will maybe be something that breaks your heart because she does write romance novels that make me cry sometimes. So I can't wait to read this. I know they're going to have like a scandalous affair because she's totally not Duchess material. But they'll get their happy ending and I can't wait. Next, I also got the arc for Barbarian Mind by Ruby Dixon, which is the 4th Ice Planet Barbarians book, and I've been enjoying the series. So I hadn't read the Ice Planet Barbarians when they first came out, and everyone was going crazy for the very tall blue men, the Sakui. And so when NetGalley started re-releasing them because they're getting new covers that are more like, you know, Barnes & Noble or whatever friendly, I just started requesting the arcs, and I've gotten one for each one. So this one is about Harlow and her soulmate, who I can't remember his name. It's like Rook or something. And he like lives outside of society and doesn't really speak or wear clothes, and then kidnaps her because he knows they're supposed to be together. And so it sounds like fun. That sounds like, sometimes I like the kidnapping trope. I like the kidnapping trope in fantasy situations. I don't like it in contemporaries at all because it just feels like too real. But like a giant blue alien who has a parasite living in his chest, who's in love with the parasite living inside your chest, that's not going to happen. So I don't mind the kidnapping trope on that one at all. Next, I have Viviana Valentine Gets Her Man by Emily Edwards, and I'm actually currently reading this, so I wasn't sure if I should stick it on or not, but I don't know if I'm going to finish it in time because I am reading multiple books right now. This is a historical mystery that takes place in the 1950s. So far, Viviana is like a assistant, a girl Friday, to a private investigator, and they've just gotten this case where they're supposed to like tail this wealthy man's daughter because she's refusing to marry his partner, who's much older than her. But that's where I am so far. So far, like the New York City 1950s scenery is fantastic and very enjoyable. But you might get that on my August wrap up. We'll see. It depends on how quickly I read the rest of it. The next two are arcs I talked about at length in my fantasy reads for the rest of the year. So I will pop the link for the video in the description if you want to hear more, and I'll just give you a quick rundown. The first is The Song That Moves the Sun by Anna Bright, and this is a YA fantasy, which I don't usually read YA, but this just sounded like something I'd really like. It's a high fantasy, and there's magic to do with astrological signs, which I love astrology, so that's why I thought this might be a good one for me. And then the next one is The House with the Golden Door by Elodie Harper. This is the second book in a series, which I did not realize. Haven't read the first book, but it is about a woman who basically used to be a prostitute in Pompeii, and now she's a courtesan, which is kind of like a private prostitute, I believe. You just have one person you work for rather than, in a brothel. And the man who used to own her is like coming after her. And I know there's like some fantasy in it. So I think this also isn't the last book. I think this is going to be longer than Duology. So if I really like it, I'll probably go back to read book 1 and then continue on with the series. I'll let you know. Okay, so next let's talk about some classics that I might read. I told myself I was going to read a ton of classics this year, and while I've done okay, I've been really having a hard time being motivated to pick up a lot of these classics. Well, I loved like The White Sargasso Sea and The Quiet American. I've had kind of like a lull in classics. I did read one in August, which I'll talk about in my wrap up, but I don't have super high hopes for me, especially because the rest of the year tends to be really busy. I think that January and February are really the time of the year where I can dive into classics. But I am going to read at least a few pages of the Aeneid. That's sort of my thing with this. I've read like 5 pages, and I'm just going to keep trucking along and reading a couple pages until at one point I can say I read the Aeneid in 2025 or whenever that happens. But I'm going to read a few pages. Okay? I'm going to do it. If you don't know what the Aeneid is about, it's about Aeneas leaving the Trojan War and founding Rome, and Dido's in it. And I like her as a mythological character and as a singer. Next, I might go to the library and get Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie because I've kind of been in the mood for a mystery. And I recently just watched on Prime The Ordeal of Innocence, which was an Agatha Christie adapted series because stuff happens in that definitely didn't happen in the book. But it got me in kind of like an Agatha Christie mood. So I might go pick that up at the library. And then the last one, and I'm only saying this because we're coming up on September, and I feel like September's Dark Academia month, October's Witch month. So I might get The Secret History and at least start it because I do want to read it. And I do enjoy Dark Academia. I'm not like crazy for Dark Academia, but I do enjoy the books I've read in that subgenre. Will I go get The Secret History from the library? Probably. Will I read it? Probably not. And then lastly, here are some audios that I might listen to in September. The first being, I've taken a really long break from listening to my Shakespeare, which I had been doing in the winter and spring. And so I'm hopeful that I will listen to one play in September. I have 3 plays left for the year. I think I'm probably only going to get to 2, but maybe I'll surprise myself. And they are Much Ado About Nothing, As You Like It, and All's Well That Ends Well. So I will pick one of those once all my children are back at school, instead of just half of them. And I will listen to it while I fold my laundry, which is what I enjoy doing while I listen to Shakespeare. And my children are at school, so it's nice and quiet and I can concentrate. Then in August, it's a little bit of a spoiler for my August wrap-up, I listened to Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire while I cleaned my house, and it was delightful. It was a great read when you're doing something mindless like vacuuming and organizing and stuff like that. So I am hopeful that I will also listen to In an Absent Dream, which is the 4th book in the Wayward Children series. And then if I feel like it and get on a good roll with it, I might also listen to the 5th book, which is, I think, called Come Tumbling Down or something like that. I'll put the pictures up here as always, so you'll be able to read the title. So those are a couple audios I'm hoping to listen to, as well as all the books. And that's the end of my list. So it's a huge TBR, and I know I'm not going to read all of it, but I've lately been putting like so many books on my TBR because it gives me kind of like a list when I'm stuck after I'm having like a book hangover or whatever, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to get right at the beginning of the month when I finish The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. But then I can kind of look and be like, what am I in the mood for? Do I want to read a mystery? Do I want to read a romance? Do I want to read something historical? So on, so forth. So I like making these huge TBRs because it gives me a little more wiggle room than if I give myself like 8 books that I'm going to read in the month. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. And please drop me an emoji in the comments of your choice. I can't think of like a good September one. Actually, maybe like an apple or one of your choice. And as always, I hope you are in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. See you soon.